Hello, 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 hello. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another Ielts journey with Fabi, where we talk about everything and anything Ielts test. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Fabi, and I help people get the score they need on the Ielts test and test only once. Okay. No one should be doing the IELTS test more than once. Okay, guys. If you know me, if you have been to my channel before, you probably met Hector. Hector is one of my former students, and before he met me, he had done the test like 15 times. If you're interested in his story, go over to my YouTube channel, and under videos, you will see the interview I did with him. It's shocking. It's shocking. Okay, guys. And yeah, no one should be doing the IELTS test more than once. Please, 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 only do the test when you're ready. If you have been my student or if you've talked to my students, okay, you know that my students only do the test when they are ready. Okay, I don't let my students do the test when they're not ready. If they're not ready. All right, goody goody. So today we are going to talk about how to actually improve your English for the test, even if you don't know where to start. Okay, so as I mentioned to you before, to me, the IELTS test has two parts, actually, three parts. Okay, but the most important parts, okay, strategies and English. Strategies and English. If you are doing an IELTS course that tells you you don't need English, this course is lying to you. I don't understand how people study for an English test and don't study English. For me, it doesn't make any sense. Okay. Actually, recently, you probably know that I opened enrollments for my course IELTS with Fabi. It's closed now. Okay, we're week 2 already. We're doing the challenge at the moment, and my students are learning everything about the IELTS test. We started last week, and so in this course, one student joined me because he did an IELTS course, and he said, "Fabi, there was no English in the IELTS course." So I did the course, took the test, didn't get the score I needed. I need English. And actually, I called him. We spoke on the phone. And he said, "So you have English. What kind of English do you have? How does it work?" Because you need it. Okay, guys. So you really need it, especially if you're thinking about getting a 7 or higher. If you're thinking about getting 7 or higher, you need to study English. Fabi, how do you know that? The people who are not getting 7 in writing are the people who have problems with grammar, English grammar. Not big problems, silly mistakes, loads of silly mistakes. Okay. So think about that. Think about that. How do I know that? I've been teaching IELTS for more than 10 years. I help people every day. Every day. On Monday, how many people did I speak to about the IELTS test? 10, 20. Hey, only on Monday, I spoke to like 20 people about the IELTS test. Okay. From different nationalities. Different nationalities. Okay. So that's why I'm here to talk to you guys. I have a lot of information to share with you. Okay. So we're going to talk about how to start. Okay. How to start. Usually, the the process people go through is actually they get a letter, they get an email, okay, they get a piece of paper that says IELTS score, blah, blah, blah. That's usually where your journey starts. So you can say yes in the comments if that's you. Okay. You need the IELTS test. And then whoever tells you that doesn't know anything about the test. They just tell you, hey, you need it. And then you have to work on it. Okay. So you are what you call in the dark. And then what is your next step? Tell me your next step, guys. Everybody steps. You go, someone tells you need to do the test. And then what do? You go to Google. Well, ChatGPT nowadays, right? And say, how to pass the IELTS test. Or you come here to YouTube. All right? Sorry. And you go, how to pass the IELTS test. Come on, guys. I honestly, recently, I have been using a lot of the emoji that the person's like this, like, me, but it's a little bit shy. Me, like, yes, I do that. Okay. That's usually your first step, which is fine. However, if you have tried that, okay, how much information do you get when you try that? How much information do you get? Tons, millions of information. Millions, but there's a comment here. My current level is a solid 6.5. After 20 days, I have exam. Can you improve it to 7.5? Okay. Bambi. Okay, Bambi, stay with me here. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. Okay, Bambi, just stay with me here. Okay. I'll come back to your question in a moment. All right. So that's it. Okay, guys. So much information. You don't know where to start, right? Okay. And then just what Bambi just said here. Okay. Like I need a 7.5 from 6.5 to 7.5. Okay. I'm going to go back to you in a moment. Maybe hold your horses a little bit. Bear with me. Okay. So that's it, guys. And then from this context, what happens is you are told you do your research. Okay. And then you start doing your research. And I told you before, being here with me is not studying for the IELTS test. Here, you're getting information about the test. Like I'm going to talk to Bambi in a moment. Okay. And I'm not going to teach him the IELTS test. I'm going to give him information so he decides what he wants to do later. So I'm not here to teach you anything. I'm here to share information because being here on YouTube, it's not studying for the IELTS test. It's not studying, it's collecting information. Studying happens somewhere else in a different way. All right? Okay. So, sorry. Someone tells you have to do the test. You start doing research and you think you're studying. And then you take the test and you don't succeed. And then you ask for help. But you lost, at least in Australia, $500. Okay, you already lost $500. All right? Okay, so that's the stories I hear every day. Thank God, 80% of my students who have joined my course have never done the test before, which is great because I will work with them and they're going to do the test only once. Okay? And that's what I want to happen to everybody. I want people to do the test only once. And no, the IELTS doesn't want your money. They want you to pass. I talk to examiners. I talk to IELTS centers. They want you to pass. They don't want you to go there 10 times. It looks bad when you go there 10 times. It looks very bad for them. Okay? They don't like it. Okay? Don't think, oh, they want my money. No. Okay? They don't want your money. Okay. So, questions you might have. I don't know what to study, which is fine. And that's why you go to Google and you type how to study for the IELTS test. Okay? But again, try to find some help. That's the best thing you can do. Or, for example, even if you kind of start practicing, you feel like you're not improving. Actually, in my course, part of my course, a bonus for my course, IELTS with Fabi, is the IELTS challenge, the 14-day challenge. What is this challenge? This challenge is as soon as my students start my course, every day for 14 days, 2 weeks, they have a little task that they have to do. One task to improve their English, one task to improve their IELTS. Remember? Two things. We always need two things. Okay? Two things. So, uh, sorry. So, in this challenge, I ask my students to do a little bit every day. Why? Because they're brand new to the IELTS test. They're brand new. So, what am I going to do? I'm going to help them put the IELTS test into their routine. Every day, they have to do something. Maybe 10 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, but every day I'm there. I send them a message, a voice message on WhatsApp every day. And today, actually, one of the topics was check your improvement. Because, guys, if you're not checking your improvement, you don't know what's going on. You don't know if you're improving. You have to make sure you are improving so you can keep going. And that's part of your motivation too. So today, I reminded my students of that. And in my course, there are tools they can use for that. And I reminded them of that. Okay. And that's something that you should be doing too. All right. Some people talk about speaking. I don't know the speaking. How is the speaking? What if I start the speaking and I forget what I'm going to say? Okay. Um, some people don't know how to study grammar. Like I said before, if you need a 7 or more, you probably need to improve your grammar. Okay. So you need to improve your grammar. You need to study grammar. But again, and then you go online and you ask, what is the most common grammar on the IELTS test? Okay, you know the most common grammar, but is it the grammar you need to improve? That's why I check my students' writings. I always check their writings because I need to know what mistakes they're making. All right, cool. And what I get the most is, Fabi, I'm frustrated. Fabi, I'm stuck. With my students, I tell them, if you feel stuck, send me a message straight away. I have students who talk to me every day. I have one, she's going to do the test next week. And she sent me a message, Fabi, yesterday I couldn't practice listening, but I will practice today. And I said, okay, cool. And then she goes, Fabi, I'm so sorry. I arrived home very late from work. I'm very tired. I'm gonna do the reading today. She sends messages every day telling me what she's going to do. Why? Because I can help her. Okay. I can push her. Or I can tell her, take a break today. It's okay. Okay. Because if that doesn't happen, she will feel stuck. All right. She will feel stuck. So today, guys, we're talking about how to improve your English for the IELTS test and where to start. Okay. So let me see here. So there's another, hi, let me Deng. Najak from South Sudan. Hello, South Sudan. That's so cool. That's so cool. All right. So let's talk about Bambi now. Okay. So he said that he's a 6.5 and he needs to be a 7.5. Okay. So Bambi, you said solid. By solid, you mean you are 6.5 in each part. Is that what you said? Okay. So is that what you said? And my next question is, what is the part of the test that you're not very good at? I will probably say it's either writing or reading, because lots of people have been struggling with reading. Okay. My students don't struggle with writing as much because I have a very good method. Okay. Not saying that it's easy to get the 7, but at least my students, they can get a 6.5 like that in writing. And then, of course, when they need a 7, we have to improve their English level. Okay. So Bambi, is Bambi still there? So Bambi, when I look at this, so maybe you just have a few strategies that you need to improve. See, I now, Bambi, I need to know which parts of the test you need to work on. Let's say everything is 6.5. Okay. What I would do, I would revise your strategies and improve your English. 7.5, usually you need academic English, but just 7.5. All right, you need academic English, maybe. Okay, so that would be my recommendation. Okay, I don't think it's there anymore. But guys, okay, yeah, so Bambi asked the question here. My current level is a solid 6.5. After 20 days, I have an exam. Can you improve it? Me? I can't improve it. You have to improve it. But if you were my student, I'll definitely ask you to do a full test for me. Okay. Then we'll check your scores together. And then we'll go over the test and check your strengths and your weaknesses. And I'll definitely ask you to maybe put everything on a spreadsheet for me. Well, in my case, in my course, the OMT, the Once Method Tracker. And from there, I could help you. And again, with your when we do a speaking test and when I check your writing, I know exactly your grammar problems and where, and maybe when you do the reading, I will know your vocabulary issues. Okay, so that's how I would help you. Okay, so that's how I would help you. Send me a message on Instagram and we can chat more. Because I don't think he's there anymore. but but yeah, he'll probably watch this later and he will see what I had to say about him. Okay, goody goody. Now, all right. Okay, so when we're talking about improving English for the IELTS test, we have to say that English for IELTS is different from general English. Okay. So, general English is the English you learn at any course that you do here in Australia, Canada, UK, US, even in your own country. That's what we call general English. The name says general. It's not IELTS English, okay? But general English is a start, okay? But if you're going to do a test, if you're going to do the IELTS test, we have to think about English for the IELTS test. And that's where people get a little bit stuck because they either have a good level of English or they try to improve their English in the wrong way. Okay, so we have to think about what is, right? So, what do I need to study? What do I need to improve so I can have good English for the IELTS test? Okay, so uh, if I were you guys, maybe I would go back to some of my previous lives, especially the ones where I talk about writing and speaking, because I shared the Bend descriptors. The Bend descriptors is the document that the examiner uses to check your score. So the examiner will check your writing skills and the examiner will check your English skills. That's why I say that for the IELTS test, we need both. We need English and we need strategies because that's what the examiners are looking for. All right, cool. So when that happens, okay, guys, so when you start studying, okay, you have to check if it's a 6, if you need a 6 on the IELTS test, upper intermediate. General English is fine, but you will need to learn a few things that are more academic. However, if you need a 7 or more, you need academic English. It's not even an option. You need academic English. All right. So you have to start thinking about that. Okay. So you have to know the Bend descriptors. What do they want? And they are quite specific there. For example, if you're thinking about grammar, in the Bend descriptors, they will say that you need complex sentences. They're telling you what you need. So when I'm reading my students' writings, I'm looking for complex sentences. Oh, Fabi, what is a complex sentence? In short, a complex sentence is not a simple sentence. What is a simple sentence? A simple sentence is a sentence with subject, verb, complement. That's it. So, what I tell my students is I don't want short sentences. I want sentences with two parts. They go, okay. Because sometimes if I tell them, guys, complex sentences, please, they go, what? Okay. So, that's it. So, let's make it simple for you. The examiner wants to see sentences with two parts, not simple sentences with one part. Okay? That's what they want to see. And they say that there. They say that. Okay. And then when it comes to grammar, sorry, vocabulary, they will say how many spelling mistakes, not how many spelling mistakes. Yeah, kind of how many, because they say a few, like few mistakes. Okay. Error-free sentences. Error-free sentences are sentences with not a lot of mistakes. Okay. So they tell you what they want. They tell you what they need. You just have to know. So with my students, I work with that all the time. All the time. Okay. And then, so to me, that's it, guys. So another thing that I always tell my students to do is maybe just get vocabulary from the test itself. That's a good way of doing it. That's a very, very good way of doing it because, look, if you are studying for the Ielts test, right? And you need English for the Ielts test, maybe use the Ielts test. And everything you do, so with my students, what I do, everything I do for English, we always go back to the Ielts test. Always, always, always. Okay, so guys, I'm teaching you this. We're looking at this. It's so exciting. Yes, but where does it go in the Ielts test? Where? Where do we put it? Where do we need it? What's the connection? Because with my students, we don't study random English. It's English for specific things. It's for the IELTS. Okay, and as you know, the IELTS test, most things there are quite authentic. So the like I always tell my students, for example, listening part 4. What is listening part 4 for the IELTS test? Is one person talking. Is one person talking for 5 minutes. And people struggle with that. So what should you do? What is something that you could listen to or maybe watch that is one person talking for 5 minutes? There are so many things. So many things. I usually recommend TED Talks. If you're struggling with part 4, if you're struggling with part 4 for the IELTS test, listening part 4. Okay. What could you do? Just go ahead and maybe listen to TED Talks. That's an option. Okay. So again, there are lots of things we can do related to the IELTS test. And every time you're doing something, how does it relate to the IELTS test? How can I use it in the IELTS test? Okay. So let me just one thing here. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. All right. So thinking about grammar again. Okay. So we have to, yes, we have to think about the topics that would help you, like grammar topics that will help you improve your English skills with your grammar. And I'm focusing a lot on grammar, guys, because I feel that grammar is the biggest problem, especially for the people who want a 7 in writing. All right. So now, when you're studying, okay, and guys, here I'm just giving you guidance, okay, some guidance. All right. I'm not saying that after what I tell you here, you can go straight ahead and do the test, okay? All right, just some guidance for you, just some guidance if you're, especially if you're feeling lost. Okay, if you're feeling very lost, which most of you are, I know. Okay, so um, when you're studying grammar for the IELTS test, you will need a combination of what you believe is grammar, for the IELTS test, and your own mistakes. Mhm. What you believe is grammar and your own mistakes. Because then you will learn what is kind of required, or the good things that you should learn, and then you focus on your mistakes. And that could be related to, let's say that they one of the things that are important for the IELTS test is the passive voice. But when you use the passive and make mistakes, there you go. That's something you need to improve. Or maybe linking words, using linking words, but you're using them correctly. So don't spend so much time on it because you're using it correctly. That's why it's important to get someone to check your test for you. Okay, that's why. Get a person. IELTS expert, sometimes general English teachers won't give you a very good feedback. Okay, get an IELTS expert to give you feedback. All right, goody goody. Okay, guys, you can pop questions in. Okay, I'm just gonna do a recap of what we talked about today. So today we're talking about how to actually improve your English for the IELTS test. Okay, and if you're feeling stuck, I told you a few things that you can do. Okay, so I told you how what your start looks like. You go online, you do some research, but being online is not studying, guys. Being online, watching videos, looking for tips, that's not studying. That's collecting information, but that's not studying. That's not practicing. Okay? Cool, just so you know. Okay? And I do know what you're going through, guys. I talk to my students every day. I get messages from them every day. I really know what you're going through, and everything I do is based on the problems that you might have. Everything I do is based on the goals you have. All right. And I'm here to give you information about the IELTS test so you can make the right decisions in your future. That's why I'm here. Okay. To help you with that. Okay, guys. And I know how you feel. I've been there. I've done the IELTS test. Okay. And we also talked about the fact that, yeah, general English is important. But if you're studying for the IELTS test, come on. Maybe you should be focusing on the test and studying for the test, English for the real test. Okay. For the real test. Okay. And remember, why are you doing the IELTS test? Why? Why? You don't want the test. You want to study abroad. You don't want the test. You want to live abroad. You don't want the test. You want to work abroad. You want a better life, a better salary for you and your family. That is why you are doing the IELTS test. If we keep that main goal, okay, if we keep remembering that main goal, that keeps us motivated and that keeps you going too. What do you want? Okay, so you don't want the test. You don't want the IELTS test. It's just a step to get you what you really need. Okay, guys, you want more safety because you're living in a country where you don't feel that safe, and then you move to a place where you feel safer. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Always, 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 and do not forget that. Okay, so I'm just gonna check my notes here. Check if I told you everything I needed to tell you today. Let me see. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes, guys. Yeah. So today I just told you a little bit about, English for the test, how to get there. Okay. Specific English, it's a good idea. And if you're feeling stuck, a few things you can do. All right. But remember, just doing research is not the best thing. Okay. Research, you get lots of information, but you still don't know your score. You're still not practicing. And that's what you should be doing if you want to achieve your score. All right, okay. So I'm gonna head out now. And if you need me, if you have a question, okay, the best way I think to connect with me, you can leave a comment here on the YouTube channel, of course. Just leave a comment here. Or if you're watching me on Instagram, you can also just send me a direct message on Instagram too, Fabi_English. All right. I'll be back tomorrow with more for you. All right. Bye.